All right, welcome to the Retire Freer podcast, the physical therapist guide for retirees to be strong, balanced, and mobile to live the retirement you really want to. I'm your co-host, Nick Rech, owner and physical therapist of Rech Physio in Grand Island, Nebraska. We provide outpatient PT and OT in the patient's home.
And I'm Dillon Eurek, owner and physical therapist of Strive PT in Omaha, Nebraska. We provide outpatient PT in patients' home. Just a reminder, this is not medical advice. This is for informational and educational purposes only. Please consult a licensed provider for treatments specific to you and your needs.
And if you find value in this show, please share it so we can help as many people as we can. So what we're talking about today is strength, and specifically kind of why it's important, what kind of exercises you can do to build strength, especially as you age, and maybe some misconceptions or when we talk about strength, there are types of exercises that may or may not be helping you get strong. So strength, I think, is probably one of the most, if not the most important thing for older adults, because it's, I guess, something that's going to kind of slowly decline as you age, especially after the age of 40 or 50. But I would say with the caveat is if you're not doing anything about it. So maybe kind of those high end, like max strength type things, it's going to decline a little bit. But for most people, they're kind of nowhere near that anyway. And so they still have a lot of room to kind of improve their strength. What are your thoughts there, Dillon?
Yeah, I agree. Not only strength declines as we age, but balance reactions, and other things that we'll get to maybe at a different podcast. But strength in general, it's kind of you don't use it, you lose it principle, like most people have heard probably.
Yeah.
As you age, that gets older, physical training starts to dwindle for whatever reason, and it's just important to kind of keep up with the strengthening to keep the function as the highest level possible.
And so when we talk about strength training, usually we're talking about the legs. The leg strength is what's kind of really correlated to function. And so in order to build strength in your legs, you really got to be kind of stressing your muscles. And there's probably about kind of three main exercises that I use with folks to build strength in the legs anyway. And that's a sit to stand, where you just stand up and down from a chair, a step up. So if you have a step of whatever height and you step up and down, and then the deadlift is probably, so those three are the ones that I use a lot. Do you
Yeah,
have
and
any,
what? Oh, go ahead.
yeah, do you have any kind of other movements that you like to do or that you think are good for folks?
Yeah, I use a lot of those same ones, and just the basic bridge. That also is a maybe more of an entry level, but it's also good for, like you mentioned, those exercises. There's a main muscles that are involved in all three of those, and the quads, the top of your thigh muscle, your glutes, and your calves, and even hamstrings. So your lower extremity muscles are all in play in most of those exercises, if not all of them. And those are the big ones that can encompass multiple during one exercise. So I really like the ones that you do with them too. And bridges is one that I add in as well. That the sit to stand is really my favorite, I would say too.
Yeah. Yeah, I do quite a few bridges with folks when I'm trying to kind of really target those hips or the glutes as well. So that's good too. Um, and obviously, sometimes somebody might have like a specific kind of weakness in kind of a single like muscle where you might want to do like kind of a single joint thing. But for most people who are just kind of having trouble getting up from a chair or getting up from the floor, things like that, the multi-joint movements that we talked about, the sit to stand, step ups, deadlifts, bridges, you know, um, they're probably going to be the best bang for your buck versus some of the single joint muscles or exercises. Um, so, um, and I guess I might just kind of, for the sake of kind of giving a little explanation for a sit to stand, that's standing up and down from a chair. One of the tests that I do to kind of assess someone's strength is just having them stand up and down from a chair and seeing how many times they can do it in 30 seconds. And that actually, there's normative values for, so you can kind of compare yourself to other folks your age to kind of see where you're at. So that's kind of a way to test to see kind of how you compare to other folks. Um, and a way to kind of progress or regress that, the kind of the baseline is kind of, if you're at a chair, can you stand up from that chair without using your hands? Um, and then you can kind of make that harder or easier by adding weight, or which would make it harder by holding a weight, or if that's a little too hard to stand up without using your hands, you could use a cushion to raise yourself up a little bit so you can so it makes it a little easier, or you can use your hands to do the sit to stands there.
Nice. Yeah, exactly. And I just want to touch on a little bit on kind of the sequence of a sit to stand. As some folks maybe just do it without thinking about it, and as you get older, they find that maybe they once were able to do it pretty easily, and sometimes it can get harder. And that's also dependent upon the surface, right? The couch, we all know some of those couches that really sag in the middle, or those recliners that have been used multiple times.
Kind of low. Yeah.
Yeah, how difficult those can be. So I like to say there's kind of four different things I want to include on the sit to stand quality to improve that. And first is you got to get kind of to the edge of the chair or the couch. So you
Yep.
move your body to the edge, and then I always check to make sure everything is lined up in good form. So shoulder width apart. Are your hips and knees and feet all shoulder width apart? And then I also do the momentum, a little momentum lean back and then lean forward. And then maybe most people have heard once your nose is over your toes, you begin to lift, and you can use your arms, like you said. If you use your arms, or if you can go without, that's even better. So then, the push is the fourth stage there. So you combine all those, sit on the edge of the chair, make sure your alignment's good, get the momentum, and then go for it. And then balance at the top. And that's kind of the sequence that I like to explain to people.
Yeah. Absolutely. Kind of the sometimes when I see folks struggling with standing up without their hands, they're not getting that forward weight shift, which is kind of the nose over toes cue that we give with folks. So that's something to keep in mind. And the other thing that I'll see people kind of struggle with sometimes is they're not getting their feet under them. They might try to prop their feet kind of further out, but actually, if your feet are closer to the chair, that's going to make it actually a little bit easier, which sometimes people don't really realize.
Yeah, and I also like to put either another chair or the walker, if they're using one, in front of them, if they're definitely going to try it on their own, for homework or whatever, just for extra added balance until they get more accustomed to it. But yeah,
Yeah.
that sums up the sit to stand pretty good, I think.
Um, and so then I just kind of wanted to touch on a few maybe misconceptions or um, things that maybe folks could maybe do a little bit better when they're thinking about strength training. So, in order to build muscle, you need to stress the muscle kind of harder than it's or more than it's used to. In order to actually build strength, you should feel like you're putting in like uh, a good amount of effort. Um, so, like if 10 out of 10 is your max effort, you definitely want to be above a five, kind of ideally between like a six and an eight, as far as effort, like out of 10, when you're doing some of these strength training exercises in order to actually build strength. Um, so, a couple things that I've heard from folks that I've working with, they say that they're doing their strength exercises or they're doing some of these exercises to get stronger. But when you have them kind of explain what they're doing, they're what they're doing is pretty easy, and it's not really at a level that's really making them kind of have to work for it. Um, have you kind of seen or some of those types of things?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's I also have to explain I mean, the basic strength dosage is that, typical is the 3 sets of 10. Now, I don't always use that. It's more patient specific, maybe 5 is, that rigorous level of an 8 out of 10 or a 6 or 7 out of 10 for that patient. So then, you know, tweaking it that way to your individual needs. If someone hasn't exercised in a while, you're going to start off a little slower. But you
Yep.
absolutely need to challenge your systems if you want any progress to be made. And that also can lead to soreness, where
Yeah.
soreness
Yep.
in your thighs and your glutes, those muscles we talked about. I like to say it's a good thing. And delayed onset muscle soreness, when I work out personally, I want to feel that the next day or the day after or, 2 days after. So then I'll know I pushed myself enough, and I got the muscles tired and sore because 'cause they're gonna heal back and build back stronger, and that's how you can improve your strength.
Yeah, that's something to kind of be aware of, that if you're a little bit sore the next day or a couple days afterwards in the muscles, then that's not a bad thing. It may actually be, it's a sign that you probably worked your muscles enough to make a positive change there. So
Absolutely.
muscle soreness is good or definitely not bad after exercising. Um, Soreness in the joint or pain in the joint while you're exercising or after exercising, that might be a sign that maybe you did a little too much at that time. But that was a good point about the being aware that soreness after exercising is kind of normal and to be expected sometimes. So
Yeah.
um, uh, so just a couple of specific kind of exercises that I feel like maybe aren't enough to do strengthening. If you're sitting in a chair and just kicking your knees up, your feet up and down, like bending and straightening the knees or bending the ankles up and down, those are kind of some nice exercises just to get your joints moving, get a little circulation going. Um, but to actually build strength to where you can be more independent and get around easier. I would say those two probably aren't going to cut it. That I think a lot of people think are kind of building strength, but actually aren't. Um, do you have any other ones that you've kind of seen people do or talk about?
Yeah, like those like you mentioned, the kick outs or the ankle pumps, most people can be familiar with those, especially if they've had home health in the past, whereas, Rech Physio and Strive Physical Therapy, were mobile outpatients, so we take it up a notch from home health. But I like to call those more, yeah, warm ups, really. So it
Yeah,
maybe before you get to those sit to stands or the step ups or stairs or whatever you're using for more strength dose, use that
yeah,
to warm up your systems and get the joints warmed up and lubricated up, or if you will,
yeah,
and that can also prepare your joints and bodies for more successful sit to stand, things like that. So that was a good point there.
yeah, for sure. Well, I think that about sums it up for me. Dylan, do you have any last thoughts?
Maybe one other thing, if you're gonna look into strengthening, it's a really good thing to do, and start slow and definitely make sure the form is right. So if you know that already, you can go for it. And I like to record or keep track of numbers so you can keep yourself accountable a little bit on what you've done today. And if you want to build strength, you shouldn't be doing the exact same thing in 6 months from now. Is if you're improving, then that number should slowly improve or increase. That's all I just wanted to touch on there.
Yeah, so like maybe more reps, or maybe you're using some more weight that you're holding, or maybe you're doing it from a lower surface. Those would be ways to progress it.
Absolutely.
All right. Um, well, very good. Well, thanks for listening. And if you found value in the show, Again, please share with your friends. If you're in the Grand Island area or Omaha area or have questions, please reach out. So again, my name is Nick Rech. I'm in Grand Island and I have Rech Physio. If you have questions or want to seek out a physical therapist, you can give me a call. My number is 402-641-3176.
Yeah, or if you're in Omaha and surrounding metro area, my name's Dillon, CEO and owner, PT, Strive Physical Therapy. My number is 402-990-0143, and always strive to be your best.